Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Eugenia Manolidou. I'm a musician. I'm the Director of Studies of Ελληνική Αγωγή. Ελληνική Αγωγή is a small private school that teaches ancient Greek to children and adults since 1994. Now, we're here today with our specialists, with professors of the ancient Greek language, people that have dedicated their lives in researching and teaching ancient Greek as a living language. This is the specific thing I would like to speak about today, how to teach ancient Greek by speaking it. And how come there are people all over the world that want to know ancient Greek so well that they can speak it and understand it? And is it worth it to spend so much time in order to learn this language, a classical language, a language maybe of the past, or as I say, the language of the future? Please join us in this very, very interesting discussion, a subject that I adore, that I've been going through all over the world the last few years in order to find these people that are gathered here today in order to show us, to inspire us, and to tell us how come they decided to do this, why, and if at the end, are there any results? Please join us in this very interesting discussion. I'm here today. I would like to introduce our speakers to you. From the left, this is Ms. Jenny Teichmann from Germany. Χαίρε όσες παρέστης. Μαλά χαίρο σε όρωσα. Χάριν σε έχω πλήστην. Thank you so much for being here with us. Gerardo Guzmán, χαίρε και εσύ.
Χαίρε και εσύ και εμείς και στην μεγίστη τιμή και η χαρά συγχυμήν διατριβή.
Και ομοίως. Gerardo Guzmán is a professor of classical Greek at the Vivarium Novum in Italy. Juan Coderch from St. Andrews University in the UK. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Benjamin Kantor from Cambridge University, but teaching ancient Greek, classical Greek as a biblical language mostly. Thank you so much for being here. And Angela Dix from the UK, in charge of a division of Classics for All. Can you please tell us, what is Classics for All?
Classics for All is a national charity in the UK. We have been going for about 12 years now. And in those 12 years, we have introduced, supported, and encouraged the teaching of classics, Latin and Greek, into state schools in the UK. And we've introduced them into over 1,000 schools across the UK in that time.
Which ages mainly?
So historically, we would have been looking at secondary schools, so children between 11 to 18, including sixth forms. But what we're finding now is a really big increase in the number of primary schools that are becoming interested in introducing ancient Greek and Latin into their curriculums and teaching their children. So our big booming thing at the moment is primary classics, which is really exciting.
It is, it must be. So you're teaching, you're showing to the teachers of state primary schools in the UK how to teach their students ancient Greek and Latin.
That is absolutely correct. And the thing with primary school teachers, especially in the UK, is that they very often do not have any Latin or Greek themselves. So they are non-specialist, and we are teaching them how to teach it to those children.
That is beautiful, it's amazing.
So we provide the training, we provide all the resources, but we keep mentoring, we keep supporting, and over time, we find that it grows within schools, and more teachers are confident and are able to carry on within the school.
Beautiful. Evie, congratulations.
Thank you.
Jenny, you mainly live in Berlin, but you teach online and you travel to the world teaching ancient Greek and Latin. Here we will speak mostly today about ancient Greek. What background do your students have?
Yes, so my students come from all over the world. I live in Germany, but actually I don't have any German students. And I like it like that, not that I have anything against German students, but I like the fact that basically, as you said, all over the world there are people who are interested in ancient Greek. And this new age of technology allows us to connect in a way we have never done before, basically. So I have students from America, North America, South America. I have students from Israel. I have students from, all over the world, basically, who all want to learn ancient Greek.
And what background do they have? Are they classical studies students? Are they people that want to use it for their work, or they just want to do it for fun?
It's all basically. So they're classic students, but also a surprising number of, let's say, hobbyists, we could say. So who are just interested in ancient Greek culture. They have a completely different job, they're in technology, for example. But I guess as a personal enrichment, they also want to learn ancient Greek to get access to all the texts we know, Plato, Aristotle, the Bible.
And Mr. Guzmàn, you start teaching ancient Greek to the students at the academy in Italy since the first day.
Yes.
They come in class. Do they know Greek at all when they come?
Many of them never studied before Greek, and many of them need some days to learn to alphabet and more. But in the beginning, it's perhaps an effort, but they feel the progress after 2 weeks when they are reading Sappho, where they are reading to some sentences of Heraclite without traduction.
Without translation.
Explanation in ancient Greek, when they are able to explain to the other students in ancient Greek the text and the authors.
The strange thing with the Vivarium Novum Academy is that they gather students from all over the world, one student per country. So they have 40 students every year from 40 different countries. And they come, and most of them don't speak Greek at all. So they enter the class, and what do you say? Χαίρετε? What do you say?
Gerardo Seimi, Amy CA, Tisesti Nautos, Esmen Este. The first thing is make comfortable them to the language and offer the tools to understand and to create the basis for the progressive work. It's very necessary to learn the questions, because the lesson is not only a frontal approach, it's mostly a dialogue. And this is the very traditional way. This is the Renaissance way. This is the British way, as Henry Dennis Rouse say. This is the very traditional way. It's a dialogue. As we can see on Plato, we can see in Xenophon, Plutarch, we can see in many authors.
So what we consider as something revolutionary, to go into the classroom and then the teachers start speaking to us in ancient Greek, it's actually not revolutionary at all. It's the other way around. What we have been doing the last 60, 70 years is the untraditional way of teaching, and not effective at all, because we see in many countries, not only in Greece, that people end up not learning anything because they are forced to learning so many rules. What do you do in St. Andrews University, Juan? What do you do? How do you make Greek attractive to your students? By the way, you have students that want to study classics. You don't have from any other field, right?
No, in fact, in my class, some of my students may major in biology, in chemistry, and some of them take classics, Greek or Latin, just for fun, because they want to do it for 1 semester. And what happens sometimes is that some of them remain in classics.
So,
they like it so
you
much
must be doing something right. What are you doing to make them stay? The biology majors, what do you do to them?
well, to make somebody who wanted to major in biology, to make them change their mind, okay, I have changed my mind, I will major in classics. What do? Well, basically I teach both languages, Greek and Latin. How I teach them to make them attractive.
Yes.
I try to reduce grammar to the very minimum necessary. So, for instance, some pages of the textbook are really scary because they're a whole page with different verbal forms. I try to simplify it as much as possible, simplify grammar as much as possible.
And then you are an expert in simplifying things, having in mind that you have translated modern literature, like The Little Prince, for example. You translated The Little Prince in ancient Greek. You translated The Importance of Being Earnest in ancient Greek and Latin. So it's something that you are very familiar with, trying to make texts in classical languages more attractive to the reader.
Yes, well, in fact, I don't use my own books in the classroom. So some of my students even do not know that these translations exist. Some of them sometimes, Juan has written this, have you heard about it? Sometimes for them it's a surprise.
Yes, you're very humble, but but it serves the purpose, right? Because you have given to all of us the feeling that we can read and understand classical Greek, even if not just reading Plato and Herodotus.
Yes, I try to put in their heads that it's a language, well, two languages, Greek and Latin. They are two languages, and with these two languages they can do whatever they want. Not only read the classical corpus, only Cicero, Tacitus, Demosthenes, Plato. They can do something else with a language.
Right. And you, Ben, you teach in Cambridge University classical Greek as a biblical language. So when the children, when your students enter the class, do you start by speaking to them in ancient Greek?
So in the times when I have taught ancient Greek as a living language, yes, you begin right by here, onomami Benjamin, Pavlos, odito to estinto meso, onoma. And yeah, you go from there. And it's really about doing everything that we would do if we were learning a modern language, right? That from the very beginning, you want your students reading, writing, hearing, speaking, and all of that works together to build fluency over time.
Why would someone need fluency in a language that is no longer spoken?
So I think that's an excellent question, because so many of those who say we don't really need to do this with ancient languages say so because they say our ultimate goal is just reading. And yet when you're reading, there's so much more than just decoding or translating. There's experiencing it in real time. There's enjoying it. There's being moved by it. And all of that has to come in a wider context of using the language in many more contexts and in many more spheres than just from the page of a book.
Angela, I saw the other day some of your students that participated in this contest, the reading contest of Greek. Tell us about this. How did this idea come up and why?
So this was through another organisation in the UK called the Classical Association, and various branches organise reading competitions.
Reading competition, why?
Yeah.
It's you know, we don't have it in Greece, and I would like to know more about
this. So the particular competition that my students were involved with was run by the Cambridge Classical Association, and they're not being expected to read texts that are really difficult. The texts that we read, these children that I was working with are perhaps 13, 14 years old, and the texts they're reading are the texts that they're using in class. So they are texts that they are comfortable with already.
Yes.
But it's exactly what you were saying, Ben. It's not just the decoding, it's not just the barking at the words, it's understanding how the language works and how you have to present that language and how you respond to it. And there's a lot of drama involved.
A lot of drama.
and rhetoric. And it's so lovely to see the students, they start off with a text that they're fairly unfamiliar with reading out loud, But after a while, they blossom and they're really enjoying actually being part of the language and actually,
Can you tell us a little bit more about the curriculum? What kind of books do they read? What is a classical
Τι είδους βιβλία διαβάζετε?
textbook like in the UK?
So this depends on the age of the children. Looking at secondary, I expect the type of books we're using in secondary are very similar to what these guys are using in university. So we would be using texts like Athanase and reading Greek. There's a Greek to GCSE book that we use. With the younger children, with primary children, we don't have textbooks.
Maybe we should speak more about it at the end of this discussion, because we're specialized in teaching primary school students ancient Greek. Of course, our students have the background of modern Greek, which makes it much easier for us. But we have a lot of songs, we have a lot of poems that we have that our teachers have written, and we have a lot of games, and we play a lot with the kids.
I would agree, absolutely. With primary children especially, it's all about the engagement,
and we play with flashcards. We do all these things that help them.
I would like to hear your songs and take them back with me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Jenny, tell us, what kind of books do you teach to your students? Do you just have the traditional textbooks? Do you give them texts? Not that they're not in books, like original texts? Do you write your own texts? Do you do your videos speaking in Greek? What do you do? Tell us.
Yes, I mean, books is like the traditional way of learning ancient Greek through books, and we do that, of course. But with Triodos Trivium, our speciality is actually YouTube videos. So if you want to learn modern Greek, for example, I want to learn modern Greek right now, there are very good YouTube channels where I get comprehensible input, as they call it these days. For ancient Greek, I noticed 2 years ago, there's not that much actually. So I tried to fill that gap together with Rogelio, my partner in Triodos Trivium. So that's our main goal, to provide, in addition to books, other resources. So just, let's say, interesting videos in easy ancient Greek. There's actually a bit of a discussion what is easy ancient Greek. So I get a lot of comments, or not a lot, but sometimes it happens that somebody says, oh, that wasn't that easy, your video actually. So
this is a very interesting point you raise, because what I'm trying to tell the Greeks is that there is such a thing as simple classical Greek for us. It's the Kini Greek, which is, we call it the language of the church, because most of the Greeks go to church, and at least we know a few of the prayers at church. Very few of the Greeks know that the Greek of the church is actually ancient Greek.
Yeah.
They think it's the Greek of the church, but they realize it when they read the texts, that most of the words they already know, they're familiar with them because they listen to the text in church.
Right.
So for us Greeks that have this background of modern Greek, where etymology for us is a tool that we have since we start speaking, when we start talking when we're very, very little. And then the knowledge that we get from the biblical texts and from the texts of the church, it is a treasure for us. It constitutes the basis for learning.
I think, though, with modern Greek, it is a bit different. If you have this as a background, this definitely helps. And I think for people who don't have modern Greek as a background, the approach needs to be slightly different.
Yeah.
So in Triodos, we also develop an app right now where you can listen to Greek texts.
Oh, beautiful.
And so that's the same thing. With modern languages, you do have apps, tons of them. For ancient Greek, actually 0.
Yes, but this is why you guys are here for, and us in Ελληνική Αγωγή, this is what we do. We try to establish textbooks, methods, by doing videos, by writing songs, by doing all sorts of things that are available in modern languages.
Yes, and I would say the important thing is doing it in an interesting way.
Yes.
So I don't know who said it of you, not just grammar tables.
Yes.
But for example, the idea for our app would be lesson 1, how to say hello in ancient Greek. That's what you would learn in any other language app.
Of course, of course. This is the idea. This is what we're trying to do. Gerardo, please tell us a little bit about your books, about your method. What do you do, and how effective it is for the for your students?
Yes. Well, in the academy we use the Italian version of Athenaze. This is a review and increased and arranged form of the British book, but by Luigi Miraglia. This book, all the books are a way to approach to the subject. It's not the book in itself, but it could be very, very useful. In our case, we speak about the story in this book. It is the Athenian farmer story, Dikeopolis, and by the dialogue we can learn the language, learn a lot of words by the inductive methodology. I think, and I think we all agree to this idea. The grammar must not be the unique part of the knowledge, but for us it's very interesting, it's very important. The way to learn gradually the language, but analyze too. We can learn naturally and unnaturally at the same time. Naturally, we can read, we can hear, we can speak, but the unnatural way, but very important, is analyze and understand very deeply that ancient Greek is a very rhetoric language, as Latin too. All the texts which we have a very complex structure, and mostly we can understand that some authors uses the languages in a way, in another, because they are trying to offer a message by these words. If we can learn at the same time both things, this is naturally by speaking, by hearing, but we are writing too at the same time. We are understanding that the use of some adjectives or some verbs are important to offer an idea of the message.
Let's not make it too complicated with adjectives and verbs here, because and it's not for today, but thank you so much for this approach. So you know they're really, really specialists in what they're doing. Now, in order to end up this beautiful discussion, Angela, most of the Greek students, when they enter high school and they start ancient Greek, most of them, they ask, why do I need to learn ancient Greek? So what would you tell them?
There are many reasons for learning ancient Greek. Firstly, it's a beautiful language. Who wouldn't want to learn it? And it gives us access to all those great texts. Not only do we learn the language, we learn about ourselves, and we learn about our history, and we learn about the history of the world. It gives us so much more than simply learning a text, learning an alphabet. It's part of
learn
culture
it and not
as
using
much
the
as
translation? Most of them
that.
say, why I can read the translation, why do I need to learn the language?
Because with the translation, you're always reading somebody else's version. If you can read the original, you can work out for yourself what the author was saying to you. And we know that translators at different times will translate text in different ways. And so by getting back to the basics, getting back to the text ourselves, then we can understand better.
Of course. Thank you so much. Yes, absolutely. Please.
I think, that question about translation reminds me of what's going on in a lot of universities now with ChatGPT and AI, and everyone's talking about, can our students use this to write essays, and does this change the whole academy? And I think even if you had an AI which could make the most perfect translation of an ancient Greek text in the world, it still couldn't do what somebody who really learns the language can do. because it can't appreciate the language for you, and it can't experience the language for you, like you watch a movie and cry, or hear a song and get moved in your heart. And so that, I think, is why it's so important to learn these ancient languages and connect, because then you can do what even the most perfect translation could never do.
Thank you so much. And you, Juan?
Yes, I would like to add just 2 Italian words to this discussion of why it's better to read the text in the original language. The 2 famous Italian words, traduttore, traditore. A translator will always be a traitor. So, traduttore, traditore.
Thank you so much for this. Yes?
Another thing, this is, the point of Benjamin is very, very important, because many people feel ancient Greek as some ancient and very far from their own, because we need the specialist. If we can prepare all the people, it's as the beauty that is in a museum, but not more in a museum, it's at home.
Yes.
It's mine. It's the heritage, the common heritage.
Thank you so much. And what would you say to the Greek students that go to high school and say, why do I need ancient Greek? I mean, it's a language that is no longer spoken. I will never use it. Why learn it?
Yes, I actually had students ask me this. Yes. And to be honest, I think if the student doesn't feel it, it's difficult to persuade them. But anybody who has even the slightest interest in history, in culture, in broadening their horizon, I think ancient Greek is a very good way to do that. If you're just interested in money, let's say, you probably shouldn't learn ancient Greek. But if you have some, let's say, spirituality or some desire to connect to your ancestors in a broad sense.
So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for having us. Harin imin echo plistin. And we're ready to change our panel. Please stay with us as during our change of the audience, of the panelists, I would please like to ask you to do this little quiz on the platform. Σας παρακαλώ πάρα πολύ, εσείς που περιμένετε από το σπίτι μέχρι να αλλάξουμε τους καθηγητές μας, τους ομιλητές μας, μπείτε στη διαδικασία στην ψηφιακή πλατφόρμα της Live On, να κάνετε αυτό το μικρό quiz, να ελέγξετε τις γνώσεις σας στα αρχαία ελληνικά και γιατί όχι, να προσπαθήσετε και για την πιστοποίηση των αρχαίων ελληνικών της Language Cert. Σε λίγα λεπτά είμαστε πάλι κοντά σας.